to appreciate and understand where the Cardinals are going, we need to truly understand where the Cardinals have been. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Been lucky enough to be hosting this podcast since 2017. Part of my sports radio journey since 2011 in Phoenix. Thank you so much for being a part of this chapter. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sport stops sporting, but we don't want them to. But this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Players report today. And I wanted to take the time today, before actual practice starts tomorrow, to have the bona fide hard reset necessary to truly appreciate everything that's going on right now with the Arizona Cardinals. And just for me, since 2011, watching this team has been a team that's been full of dysfunction. Some fun moments, some moments, and a lot of in between. Whether it be the Kevin Cobb days, or the Carson Palmer days, or the John Skelton days, or the Max Hundley days, the Ryan Lindley days, the Josh Rosen days. It's been a lot of what the hell are they doing? It's been a lot of, oh no, here we go again. And then there are the beams of sunlight like Bruce Arians and Carson Palmer and the no risk it, no biscuit era with Chris Johnson and the emergence of David Johnson for a year and a half. And then the Sam Bradford, John Glennon, Josh Rosen year. I remember 2018, my former co-host and I went to the press box week one, the Washington professional football team led by Alex Smith and Adrian Peterson. The Arizona Cardinals offense, after paying $30 million to the quarterback position in the offseason, was on the field for 5 minutes in the first half. 5. So when you look at the Arizona Cardinals organization and you wonder why I've been hesitant to really crown anybody doing anything until we see it for more than 5 minutes, that's why. I know a lot of fans in my comments, have Stockholm syndrome to losing. Oh, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, which by the numbers is true. And that's what makes what the last two off seasons we've experienced, makes it so special. Not because it's 1,000,000% going to work. Not because they're guaranteed any sort of true trajectory shift. What it does guarantee is it's going to be done a different way. And I'm not saying it, like they're going to fail a different way. That's not what I meant. However it pans out, the Arizona Cardinals are approaching this like they never have before, especially during the Steve Keim era. Michael Bidwell has never given this much power to somebody that's competent in the front office like he has Monty Ossenfort. It's different. Now, there's, of course, a bunch of question marks. Of course, a bunch of different things that could or could not happen. All you can do as an organization is check the boxes necessary to be able to potentially set your team up for future success. That's it. That's the best you can do. Especially with where the Cardinals are now, it's solely predicated upon building through the draft, building through low-impact contracts in free agency, stockpiling picks, stockpiling cap space, and moving forward. It's how you do it organically. And especially over the last decade, that's not what this was. So the reason why I'm so excited for today's show is Kent Summers, who was with the Arizona Republic since 1985, had been covering the Arizona Cardinals since 1994, and retired before last season started. He's going to join me for 2 segments today. And I'm going to ask him what it was like. I'm going to ask him about the good times. I'm going to ask him about the bad times. I've got some really fun stats to throw at him that he may or may not know. And it'll be so fascinating to hear Kent give his experience not only about the play on the field, but what the Bidwell Sr. experience was like, what the early times of Michael Bidwell was like, and what it looks like now, because the person who's made the biggest change out of anybody in the organization is the big guy upstairs. It's Michael Bidwell. Ever since firing Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury, he's saying he's casting a wide net, all the things that we've discussed myriad times, and he's done it. The culmination of that, the microcosm of that, culmination and microcosm of that, was on the first episode of Flight Plan. He was looking at Monty Ossenfort when they were waiting to pick at 27, and he truly didn't know exactly what was going to happen, which is exactly what an owner should be. It's like, you know what? I hired somebody. I'm going to put him in the right spot. I'm going to be here. I'm signing the check, so obviously I'm going to have a say. But I'm going to let them do their work. I coined the phrase, he's on the inside looking in. Where he's obviously the owner, he's in the inner circle, but he's still not the one who's always in the know, which is exactly where an owner should be when he has the right people in place to run the organization from their position down. Kent Summers, formerly of the Arizona Republic for decades, knows more about the Arizona Cardinals than most in the Valley. He's going to join me next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by LinkedIn. So when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn isn't just a job board, man. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Second segment, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here. Please go to the YouTube channel for Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button. Turn notifications on. Leave a review if you want. You know, I'm just happy that you're here every day as you make this go around again. Going into my 8th season, I've seen a lot. Haven't seen as much as my guest today, though. One of the most respected names, written word, spoken word, and everything in between in the Valley over the better part of 4 decades. One guy that I respect very highly. Always happy to get him on, once in a great while to give his thoughts on not only the past of the Arizona Cardinals, but the current times. Kent Summers, formerly Arizona Republic, joins me. Kent, thank you.
Hey, thanks for that introduction. Not sure I deserved it, but I appreciate it.
Come on. Of course you do. So you've seen a lot. And, covering the Cardinals for about 25 years towards, you've been with Arizona Republic. You were with Arizona Republic for almost 40, 25 years with the Cardinals. You saw a lot in the late 90s, 2000s, the Steve Keim era. And it hasn't always been rosy. I want to give you some numbers that you experienced. And I don't know if you know this, but I just put these together. So you saw 29 quarterbacks start at least one game in those years. You saw Larry Fitzgerald grow up into a top 3 wide receiver of all time. You know that, I think. You saw all 115 games over 8 seasons played by Kwame Lassiter, who is near and dear to my heart. Obviously passed away a couple years ago. He gave me my first shot in radio. I was with him for 4 years on his radio show, and he really, he taught me football. So I'm very gracious to him forever. He saw 6 playoff appearances, 8 head coaches, and a whole lot of mud and muck, some excitement, everything in between. As we pivot into this new era, I call it Arizona Cardinals 2.0. I know it's lazy, but it works. Talk to me about the last, 25 years of like what it was like with the elder Bidwell, with the younger Bidwell, and kind of your experience with this team.
Wow. Yeah, that encompasses a lot. My first year as the main beat writer at the Republic was the same year Buddy Ryan came as head coach and general manager and announced, you've got a winner in town. That was the first head coach I covered on the Cardinals beat. So, to think about that era when, they're still playing in Sun Devil Stadium till now, it's pretty incredible. I always got along well with Bill Bidwell, the elder Bidwell. I always felt like he was grasping for ways to win, but kind of got in his own way at times. I think a lot of times the Cardinals made mistakes by trying to make the big splashy hire, trying to sell tickets. I think they did that with Buddy Ryan. I think they did that again, signing Emmitt Smith. All of those things. I mean, through the years, it became a place at times where players came to retire, get that one last payday from the Cardinals. And things changed when they got the new stadium built. It did open revenue streams to them, and we saw Michael Bidwell take over and kind of a new regime and a different personality than his father. Very headstrong, very outspoken. I don't think anybody who worked for him doubts where he stands on issues. And it looked like for a while they had turned things around, with the hiring of Ken Wisenhunt, the Super Bowl appearance in the 2008 season, the playoff appearance the next year. Then you mentioned the quarterback, Kurt Warner, surprised them by retiring. They couldn't replace him. And so that's been a constant theme, as not only ownership in the Bidwell family, but this constant struggle to find a quarterback, a franchise quarterback. I covered so many of them over the years, from, Jeff Blake to Josh McCown to, Stoney Case to, and they occasionally found success with the Carson Palmer or Kurt Warner, et cetera. And now they've kind of flipped back into that mode where I think it's one winning season in the last 8, back-to-back 4-13 records. It's a pivotal time in the franchise's history right now, with Jonathan Gannon in his second year and some optimism, more optimism than I've ever seen for a team franchise that's won 8 games in 2 years. So it's interesting. 2024 will be a really fascinating season, I think.
Have you seen over that time, and it doesn't have to be, tooth and nail, but have you seen as much excitement around a team with so much unknown going into it? Because the unknowns are different now. Like, the unknowns aren't what the hell is Steve Keim doing? What is Cliff Kingsbury doing? It's more so, can Max Melton be a CB1 his rookie year? Like, things like that. There were future pacing question marks. Have you seen as much excitement around this? Like, this isn't fabricated. Like, everybody's been waiting for a breath of fresh air like this.
Yeah, I don't think it matches. Like, I go back to Buddy Ryan when they hired him. I mean, they wanted a splash that would sell tickets, and he did. I mean, I think their ticket sales exploded that year, 1990. I want to say 4. I mean, they went up to like 50,000 plus season tickets, and they really hadn't done much. And here comes Buddy Ryan to take over. People were very excited, and that dissipated quickly when we saw the dysfunction there under Buddy Ryan. But I've never seen the excitement for, like I said, for a team that hasn't really accomplished anything yet. I've seen more. I think there was more excitement after the 2008 season, after the Super Bowl appearance, going into 2009, another year with those guys together, Kurt Warner at quarterback, Larry Fitzgerald in his prime, Anquan Bolden, et cetera. But I've covered a lot of losing years with the franchise, and yeah, there's definitely more optimism and excitement than I've ever seen for a team coming off only 4 victories.
For sure. Ken Summers spent over 2 decades covering the Arizona Cardinals, specifically for Arizona Republic, joins me now, kind of giving, a blast from the past and looking towards the future simultaneously, and kind of comparing where the Cardinals were and what at least their trajectory looks to be now. What's been the biggest issue surrounding the Arizona Cardinals that have kept them from winning?
That's a really, really good question. I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of times they lost sight of how to build a winning football team and tried to just make a splash and sell tickets and get people interested in the franchise instead of just realizing, hey, let's do what the good franchises do. Let's get a good coach. Let's invest in the staff. Let's succeed in the draft. And then we can, supplement that via free agency. And I think too often, because of draft mistakes, they've had to make big splashes or try to fill holes in free agency. And, that's been very hit or miss, a lot of misses. And that's a very difficult way to live and succeed year after year in the NFL. And, I think blowing first round draft picks, I thought Steve Keim did a lot of good things. I'm not going to bash him. I mean, his first 3 years at the helm were the most successful in franchise history, but, a lot of bad first round picks that didn't contribute, didn't become Pro Bowl players, didn't even become regular starters. I think that really has doomed them, and the main reason why, one winning season in the last 8 or so.
The thing that I remember as we pivot here to the positives in the next segment, the thing that I remember, this is my microcosm for the Arizona Cardinals. I've only been, here since 2011, so obviously not as much of a history. But what I remember is after their playoff run, losing to Carolina, they have New England at home, the late Monday night football game, just kick off the year with Jimmy Garoppolo. They end up losing, and Bruce Arians came out as saying, and I'm paraphrasing, we never recovered from that for the entire season. That's my encapsulation of what the Arizona Cardinals were. It's like, you've got the tools, and maybe not always, but when you do, you don't know how to use them. You've got a Lamborghini, you don't know how to drive stick. And it was just something they couldn't get out of their own way. And I don't know why it feels different now. It's not because just Cliffy Baby's gone and Steve Keim's gone. It seems like things are just more methodical and clear and organic the way they're building things. Does Ken Summers? Oh yeah, please.
Yeah, it's like, we all as sports fans, you learn to trust your eyes. And yeah, they only won 4 games last year, but that was a much different team than the year before.
Right.
Like, there weren't the stupid pre-snap penalties. You could see the plan that was in place. They were competitive. They played hard. I think players were sincere in how they praised Jonathan Gannon and the organization and the direction it was all headed. And Gannon throughout his first season was very even keeled throughout that year. And I think, people didn't look forward to playing that team. So I think that's why there's so much optimism now. I mean, we'll see if the draft picks from a year ago develop as a lot of people think they will. We'll see how this year's draft picks will do. Obviously, Kyler Murray's back. I mean, there's a lot of reason for optimism. And plus, it's hard to stink in the NFL 3 consecutive years. It's not built for that. I mean, at some point, you have that. Maybe you're not the most talented team, but at some point you have that season where things break right for you, like the Minnesota Vikings in 2022, I think it was, when they won all these 1-score games. I mean, stuff happens that will never happen again. Maybe they're due for one of those seasons for sure. But, fans can see that they have a plan. They have good football people in place. Jonathan Gannon's entire staff is back intact. I don't think that can be underestimated. There's a system in place. They know what kind of players they want. I think culture is a word that's overused in sports these days, but you can definitely see the seeds of that starting to sprout under this new regime.
Absolutely. Well said. Ken Summers covered the Arizona Cardinals for over 20 years for the Arizona Republic. This is a perfect time to have him on. I'm glad that we were able to make this work. What does this team look like? What are the expectations? Is Kyler Murray the guy? Is Monty Osborne already a better GM than Steve Keim? I'll ask him all of those things next. Locked on Cardinals.
I think he's a better GM than Steve Keim was in his last 5 or 6 years.
So would I have been.
I thought Steve Keim did a really good job his first 3 years on the job. He and Bruce Arians meshed really well. It was Keim time in terms of finding free agents. They signed guys in the summer who came in and contributed. He and Bruce were, of a like mindset, and but we'll see. I mean, Monty Ossenfort's, okay, he's won 4 games as a general manager. I'm not ready to say, hey, he's the next Bobby Beathard or somebody. Let's wait. But I love the moves that he's made, so far. I love the way he's, in his first draft, how he moved up and moved around and got the people he wanted. So, we'll see. I think he's going to be very successful. I think a real key will be, does ownership, Michael Bidwell, back him up? Does he continue to trust his football people and not, micromanage and not step in and say, I like Jonathan Gannon, I like Monty Ossenfort. I'm going to let the experts do their job.
Absolutely. We'll discuss that more next. Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked on Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much, and I never want them to stop, but playoffs are winding down. We get fewer games. Sports aren't sportsing like I want them to, but FanDuel, lets you keep the sports going, man, whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. You want to put a little cheese on who's going to win the NBA Finals next year? You can do it at FanDuel. You want to put some cheese on who's going to win the NFC West next year? Maybe take a crack at the Cardinals with their long odds. You can do it. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Ken Summers. So many years in Arizona Republic. So many years covering the Cardinals. The Michael Bidwell thing is interesting that you mentioned before we went to break. I've coined a phrase, and it kind of makes sense, but it makes sense. Michael Bidwell, instead of watching game film like he was with Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim, he's now on the inside looking in, meaning he's there, it's his team, he's on the inner circle. Yet during the first episode of Flight Plan, he was still asking Monty Ossenfort what he was going to do. So you see, as you mentioned, he's given that power to Monty Ossenfort seemingly, completely, obviously, under the guise of being the owner still, letting guys who he trusts do their jobs. And it's something that he said he was going to do. Wide net, everything he said he was going to do after firing Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury, he's done, right? I mean, it seems like it's a completely new person.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's been a tumultuous couple of years for him, the product on the field hasn't been good. There's been off the field, drama, a lot of it, that points right back to his office. So yeah, like I said before, I think it's key with any owner of a team or a company or whatever, hire the best people, and you don't have to totally get out of their way, but know when to ask the right questions to lead them. Are you sure about this decision? Or maybe here's something you haven't thought of, rather than, okay, don't take this guy with the first pick, take that guy, he'll sell tickets, or he'll, you trust the football people. But I think it's fair for any owner to say, okay, what's your thinking behind doing this? What's our plan? You're going to be writing checks. I certainly would be that way as an owner. I'd be meddlesome as hell, probably. They probably kick me out of the office. Bill Bidwell used to laugh, come in the press room and back in the days, like, okay, tell me what we should do. Tell me now, kind of joking around like we were all the gurus and the experts. But yeah, I like I said, I think he's got good minds. I think I like the Awesome Fort hire. I think the Jonathan Gannon hire. I think he's going to be a good coach for him. And, I think a lot of things are in place. That's why people are so optimistic about this season.
Yeah, and let's jump to the coaches quickly, and then we'll move to Kyler Murray and then the young guys. Jonathan Gannon. So, D'Amico Ryans was the apple of my eye for the Cardinals. I think any team would have been happy. There are guys on the field, on the sidelines, who are coordinators. You're like, oh, that's a head coach. Oh, that's a head coach. Like Robert Saleh wasn't a head coach. D'Amico Ryans was. You could just tell it's mannerisms, it's things like that. You've been around football a long time. You understand exactly. He was a head coach. Jonathan Gannon we didn't know. Week 1 preseason, oh, he's a head coach. It's just it's how you carry yourself. It's not just bravado when you don't know what the hell you're doing. You pretend like you do. It's a natural thing that either guys have or don't, in my opinion. And it's rung true throughout. Win-loss, irrespective of result, as you mentioned earlier, those dudes were ready to play. Week 1 against Washington, you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
This defense has no NFL talent aside from the safeties. What are we doing here? And they were competing like it was the NFC Championship game. So the immediacy of it, that rang true, and it would have dissipated if it was just the new car smell at this point, right?
You're right. Yeah, and I agree with all that. And like I said, I think he's a really good football coach, and I think he's going to be successful here. The caveat is the bar was so low last year.
Yeah, for sure.
It's we didn't expect more than 4 wins. Kyler Murray's out, as you mentioned. There's no talent on defense. They've got holes on offense. Big problems, including who's going to be the quarterback. So all we wanted to see really was them. It's almost like a little league team, sort of. We want to see you play hard, and we want to see you get better as the season goes on. And we want to see, speaking as fans, we want to see that there's a plan in place, that we can see what you're working toward. That wasn't there with Cliff Kingsbury the last couple of years, for sure. A lot of dysfunction. His coaching staff started to fall apart, et cetera. So this staff came in, starting with Monty Osmford and his staff and this coaching staff brought an air of professionalism and accountability. Another word that gets thrown around too much, but it desperately needed in that building and in that locker room. And I think the players appreciate it. Here's the plan. Here's when you show up. Here's what you put the work in. Here's our standard. The old Mike Tomlin thing. The standard is a standard. This is the standard. It's been established. And the players embrace that. And I think they'll continue to. I mean, I don't know that there'll be a dramatic turnaround this year. I mean, I don't think this is a 10, 12 win team, but certainly could be a team that hovers around 500 and gets into the, gets a wild card. I don't think that's a long shot at all.
Yeah. And you just want to see them in the hunt on that graphic in week 15.
Yeah. And it's time. And fans should demand that of them. Like I said, eight wins in 2 years. And then, you're asking them to shell out for season tickets or to give up a big chunk of their day or time to devote to this team, to watch it, to read about it. All of that stuff. At some point you've got to put a product on the field, and let's face it, finishing around 500 in the NFL shouldn't be as hard as the Cardinals have made it look the last, few years.
Yeah, no, it's true. Before moving to Kyler Murray, I want to ask about Drew Petzing specifically, because if the Cardinals finish with a top 12 offense this year, he'll be one of the hottest names on the market for head coaching jobs, maybe not next year, but the year after. I am in the Ben Johnson world where pay your offensive coordinator fringe head coach money and run it back. I don't understand why, coordinator, head coach. That leaves teams. Look at the Bills. Yeah. It leaves teams in shambles, irrespective of how many points they score. This system for the offense is why the offense was productive last year running the ball with no talent on the outside, pretty much, aside from, Trey McBride. Do you see Drew Petzing as a guy they're like, listen, hell or high water, he's got to be the OC for this team if it works to the exponential lever that you'd expect it to work this year with the talent infusion on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to keep him here by increasing his salary or anything. If he gets a head coaching opportunity, he's going to go.
Damn it.
He's going to go. I mean, you have to. You have to. I mean, you're not going to get that many chances. This isn't, I don't think, like DeMeco Ryans, where you can pass up jobs or pass up interview opportunities if you're Drew Petzing, unless, the Cardinals blow up. Kyler Murray's the MVP. They go deep in the playoffs, and he's the hot thing. So, I think Jonathan Gannon's challenge will be, if that happens, number one, you've been greatly successful, and it's a good thing that he'll be moving on. But his challenge would be, do I have somebody in line to replace him? Who am I grooming? Who can step in? Do I have to go out and try and find an offensive coordinator and compete with everyone else who's trying to build a coaching staff, or do I have that guy in line? I think he thinks that he has people in line on that side of the ball who think like Petzing, who knows the system, et cetera. So I don't think he's too worried about that, but we'll see. I thought, midway through last season, Petzing might get a little bit of a run as a head coaching candidate, and he didn't. But if Kyler Murray takes that next step and plays better, continues to improve upon how he played in the second half of last season, which I thought he got better as it went along. If he has a season they think he's capable of, then Petzing's going to get some run as a head coaching candidate.
It's a hell of a transition there, Ken Summers. 25 years covering the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray, the 0-1 jump for me that I'm looking for this year doesn't have anything to do with stats. Sure, stats are nice. He's probably going to have a couple games of 400 total yards, 4 touchdowns like he does. But I'm much more looking for Kyler Murray, 21 for 25, 245, 2 touchdowns, an interception here and there, 30 yards on the ground, and winning football games. He needs to, it's kind of going backwards, but I want to see the game manager Kyler Murray run this offense the way it's supposed to be run and take opportunities when they're taken. But this is going to be a run-first team, right? This is going to be James Conner, it's going to be Trey Benson, it's going to be play action, it's going to be boring, and then it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride. Are you looking for Kyler Murray to pop numbers-wise and maturity and wins, or is it just win however you can, and it doesn't matter if it's ugly or if you're throwing for 300 yards or not?
It's win however you can. I agree. You can't get too hung up on numbers with him. I love what's happened the last couple of years, ever since, really this new regime took over. I think both sides gave in a little bit and realized that this relationship needs repaired, from Kyler Murray's perspective and the team's perspective. I think both sides made some mistakes, not necessarily Kyler, but his representation made mistakes in how they handled it. And Cardinals certainly made mistakes with the practice, the workout clause, the study clause and all that, which, was ridiculous. And you think about how far they've come in a year and a half where they can't say enough nice things about each other. I get the game manager thing. You want him to be efficient. What I think could stand in the way of that is I'm not sure this defense is ready to play those kind of games.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be in games where they've got to score, where they need to start throwing the football. They might not want to, but or can they run the ball and protect the defense and keep it off the field? I don't know that defensively they are there yet. I think they'll be better. I think they've flooded the cornerback position with some talent. They've tried to upgrade the front four. I don't know that it's there yet. I would like to see a marquee pass rusher, somebody emerge as a double-digit sack guy. I would like to see somebody emerge as the no doubt number 1 cornerback, et cetera. And until then, they're going to be better defensively, but I don't know how many games they're going to win, like 21-17. I think it could be more like 32-28.
Yeah, it's going to be more the Philly game towards the tail end of last year. I agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of –
unless, like I said, unless they can pound the ball early, get it going, play possession. But at some point in this league, your quarterback has to make those unscripted plays. You've got to do that. And he's got the talent around him now that he can do that. You can throw the thing they lacked last year was a guy they could throw the ball up to who would make a miraculous play. And I think they've got that guy now. And Marvin Harrison Jr., I think we saw that guy emerge last year in Trey McBride too.
Yeah. And it's interesting, first off, the playoff or bust crowd, you can save it. Like, I know that you can be happy that your team's going to be better, but if they win 7 games, if they win 75% more games they win last year and they did this year, and it's the same thing as last year and it's just better, 2025 is when they're going to explode with all the money they have. They've got all their picks and everything like that. I've gone into this offseason and camp and everything with the phrase that Marvin Harrison Jr. has zero pressure on him to produce this year. He's going to produce, but he's the third option on offense. I mean, James Conner, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison. And then, listen, if he emerges immediately, we can flip the script on everything. But isn't it nice for a young wide receiver one going into an organization that usually takes rookies and puts them in position of need before they're ready to just be able to play football and be a young player with Trey McBride already there? Yeah. They're going to run the ball. Like, this is a fantastic situation for Marvin Harrison Jr.
The only thing I disagree with in that is I would like to see at least one veteran in that wide receiver group. And I think Marvin Harrison Jr., from everything I've read, and one of my friends covered him at Ohio State, so he's very level-headed, mature kid. But I think that's invaluable to have that old head in your position group. And maybe, if he were here and it's Larry Fitzgerald's last year and he could learn, that would be the ideal situation. I think there's going to be some pressure on him to produce. I really do. I mean, that high of a draft pick, we want to, I would think fans want to see a spectacular rookie season, especially if Kyler's going to be healthy all season long. I think we're going to see it. I think, I'm not saying he's going to get 1,000 yards, but if he stays healthy, I think it's going to be eye-opening, the difference he makes in this offense.
Yeah. I mean, they've got so many big non-Steve Keimian players on the outside. They're all over 6'2" or 6'3". I mean, you've got Greg Dortch. Like, let me ask you before we get out of here. So Greg Dortch has been an interesting player because fan favorite, always the camp favorite. Everybody loves him, never gets any production. He's like Rudy out there. Cliff Kingsbury didn't know how to use him. And then he became what everybody wanted Rondale Moore to be. And now this is a year where he's going to actually have spotlight expectations. He's going to get some run in serious situations. Are we going to see one of the better stories out of an Arizona Cardinals player who's made $0, really, aside from 1 year tender, 1 year? Like, is this the year of Greg Dortch? We're going to see him explode?
Yeah, and and you throw in his impact on special teams.
Yeah,
maybe so. It's interesting. He was an interesting story to me last year because like everybody else, I would see him make these plays in games and think, why isn't he playing more? Why? I mean, some games he didn't play at all, receiver. But every time he got a shot, he performed. And it's interesting to me that Jonathan Gannon at times sounded a lot like Cliff Kingsbury when you ask him about Greg Dortch. It was what we want to see from him is consistency. We want to see the same guy every day, be able to count on him. And it led me to believe, back when Kingsbury said it, I was like, okay, does that mean, his routes are hit and miss? Maybe he's not the most reliable route runner. The quarterback can't totally trust him. But two coaching staffs said virtually the same, very different coaching staffs said virtually the same thing about Greg Dortch whenever they were asked, why isn't he playing more? So I think they were challenging him to become that consistent veteran. We need to count on you. And apparently it looked like he did that in the latter half of last season and certainly over the last month. I mean, he's really dynamic, no question about it. And, be interesting how he develops as a return person with, the new kickoff rules. Does he figure into that? But yeah, I love watching him play. I think they've had guys like this before at certain times and they've gone elsewhere. The question now is he more than, a situational player? Can he be, a number 2 guy? Or is he, that third or fourth guy who's going to have, a big game once a month?
Yeah. I mean, that touchdown against Chicago was magic. It's like, oh, that's there. Maybe tap into that a little bit more. It's going to be fascinating. There's so many storylines this year, obviously starting and ending with Kyler Murray. Is he going to be able to emerge? He doesn't need to be the best quarterback in the NFL. He needs to be a top 12 quarterback in the NFL for this to work. And we'll see, especially with all these new guys getting paid, it's looking easier and easier to look at his paycheck and be like, oh, yeah, this is more of a bargain than it was right out the gate. Ken Summers, 25 years covering the Cardinals. I really appreciate you taking some time. Ross Jackson, I'm sorry it went long. I'm not going to stop this. So where can everybody find you now? And and you're in the 1% group of Twitter handles with no numbers behind your name. First name, last name. I should have led with that. There are very few, and you are one of them. But yeah, tell people where they can find you. And
I'll be doing some Cardinals pre and post game radio like I did a year ago. I'll be doing, I think, Channel 12 on Sunday nights, breaking down the game with the crew. That was a lot of fun. I did that last year, and maybe a couple other things in the work that haven't been solidified yet. So thanks for inviting me and thinking about me.
Of course, man. Thanks so much. Ken Summers, one of the best that we've ever seen in the Valley. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.